Welcome to the Rise of the Trades podcast, the show dedicated to helping you to build, grow, and scale your trades or construction business. All rise for your host, Craig Wilkinson.
Welcome to this week's coaching episode of the Rise of the Trades podcast, where we help trades and construction business owners to skyrocket leads, explode net profits without having to graft 60 hours a week and becoming that busy fool. In this episode, I'm going to be teaching you the 10 steps that you need to follow if you're considering rebranding your trades or construction business with a standout, memorable name and high impact logo. But before we go there, I'd just like to remind you that the doors are about to open for you to apply to join my Inner Circle marketing and business coaching program. This is a coaching program where over the next 12 months, I absolutely guarantee that together we'll grow your business by an absolute bare minimum of 100%. If this is something that you're interested in applying for, could I ask you to add yourself onto our Inner Circle priority waiting list by clicking on the link in and around the description of this episode, and then we'll drop you further information about what you need to do to apply for this up and coming program. Now let's transition over to this week's coaching episode. I've been involved in the construction industry for 38 years now. Out of them, I've been running my own businesses for 32 years. I've spent the last 20 years becoming an expert in marketing, branding and sales. And since 2012, I've coached over 30,000 trades and construction business owners to build, grow, scale and even sell their businesses. And if I've got to pull out one of the biggest mistakes I witness and I see day in, day out, you've only got to look across social media to see this. And that is the mistake of people's brands. Their company names, their logos, their strap lines, the fonts, the colours that they've pulled together to create this brand that they have now got for the rest of their time, and how wrong people are getting it. You see, I believe the vast majority, and I sincerely mean this, the vast majority of trades and construction business owners, whether you are a one-person band self-employed or you are a established limited company, the one mistake I see is the branding is awful. And the sad reality is the business owner doesn't even realise and understand what they've done. And they don't realise and understand that that brand that's supposed to turn your target market on and attract your target market to your business is actually doing the complete opposite, and it's probably turning more people off than it is turning on. So in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 biggest mistakes that we see that you may well have made yourself in your business with your brand and your logo and your name and your fonts and your colours and everything. So I'm going to share with you the 5 biggest mistakes. We're then going to look at the negative consequences that these mistakes that most of you won't even be aware that you've made or you are making with your brand are costing you in your business. And then what I'm going to do with you, I'm going to share with you our 10-step process, like a 10-step checklist that I'm going to give you, that we use when we rebrand all of our Growth Club and Inner Circle members. When we rebrand you and we create your new business name and your new logo and pull together that amazing brand, I'm going to give you the actual strategy of what we go through when we build people's new brands. Now, since the turn of this year, we are rebranding businesses every single week. On average, we've done one rebrand for a trades or construction business owner every single week from the turn of this year. And the more and more people listen to the strategies that I share and the coaching that I go into, particularly around branding and marketing, the more people have stopped and gone, do you know what, Craig? You're absolutely right. I never actually looked at branding in that way before, and therefore, can you rebrand us? Can you come up with a new logo and a new business name? And of course we can. That's what we do. But I just want to plant some seeds with you, because I believe that many of you won't be aware of some of these mistakes, and you'll not be aware of the negative consequences that this is now having on your business. And as a business owner, you don't want to put obstacles and hurdles in front of your own path by getting the basics wrong. So grab a notepad, grab a pen, make some notes, and let's get stuck in. Let me ask you a question. When you first set up your business, however long ago that was, how much thought did you really give to your business name, your colours, your fonts, your symbols, your logo, your slogan, your strapline? How much actual thought and professionalism went into creating your business brand? Because what we've got to remember is this business brand that you've had since day one, and for some of you, this might have been a couple of months ago if you're new to business. If that's the case, brilliant, because what you're going to learn in this episode is probably going to save you a lot of pain and stress moving forward. Or for some of you, if you've been in business as long as I have, you might have been in business for 10, 15, 20 years. And what we've got to understand is whenever we set up our business on day one, we set that business up with very little experience when it comes to branding and marketing of businesses. I mean, come on. We set up our business with zero experience in business, full stop. But we all know to start off with, well, hang on a minute. If I'm setting up a business, I've got to give it a name. I've got to create some kind of logo or brand, and I've got to get that out there because that's what's going to help me market my business. But you've had no experience in running a business at this point. You've got no experience in branding and how important your brand is and marketing. So for many people, what we do is we cobble this brand and this name together that's going to follow us around for decades and decades and decades to come, and we put it together usually with no experience on a shoestring budget, with no real thought that's gone into it, and no thought gone into what does my business look like in the future when it's done, it's built and it's finished. We don't think like this, and I made the mistake. Listen, I did this myself when I first set up my business back in 1994. I set my first business up called Craig Wilkinson, Joiner and Building Contractor. So I've made them mistakes. But what thought process, what help, what experience did you bring in to make sure that whatever name you have given yourself is a name that you're going to grow into over the next 10, 20, 30 years? And the answer to that is usually, do you know what, Craig? I didn't really have any experience, you're right. And I've sort of like cobbled this name together. I didn't have a big budget because I was setting my business up and I was skint. So I came up with the name. I came up with the logo, the fonts or the colours. I asked my family members, what do you think to it? So now you're asking uneducated people that even know less about marketing and business than you do. What do you think to this? And you end up cobbling together this logo, this brand and this identity that's going to follow you around forever. But in them early days, it's just exciting, isn't it? It's exciting that I'm setting up a new business. Yeah, it's daunting because you don't know what lies ahead of you and you're stepping into the fear of the unknown. But how how good is it to think that, I run my own business. I've got my own business now. I've got my own name. I've got a logo. Let me go and get some business cards printed. Let me get a website knocked up on the cheap. Let me get some leaflets printed with this logo on. Let me get some A-boards. Oh, I've just cobbled enough money together now to get me van sign written, right? This logo is following you everywhere. It's on your branded workwear. It's on Checkatrade. It's on Which Trusted Trader. It's on your emails. But that's okay, because in them early days, it's all about getting started, getting up and running, getting out of the door, taking that step forward. But the problem that we're creating way back when you first set up your business is there is no thought process into the future vision of your business and where you want your business to be in 10, 20, 30 years' time when it's built. And this is where the first problem, the first disconnect with your branding starts to happen. Because what happens is, over the, let's say, years, and it does take a few years, but over the years, something starts to change in you and your business. And what starts to change is you start to get experience and you start to get some wool on your back. So if you've been established for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you'll now have more experience when it comes to running a business, when it comes to branding and comes to marketing, because you've learnt by your mistakes that you've made in the past. So you, as a person, start to grow and start to develop. Maybe get into a bit of coaching like these podcast episodes. Maybe a mindset starts to shift and you start investing into yourself. And you as a person, you start to grow. Things start to morph. Things start to change. And when you start to grow as an individual and get more wool on your back and more experience in business, then guess what? The decisions that you start to make have a impact on the growth of your business. So as you start to grow and change, your business is starting to grow, morph and change. And organically, over them years, we work out that, hang on a minute, why am I doing this? Why am I offering this product or this service? Because all it seems to do is attract time wasters and tire kickers, and it makes me no money. So I'm not going to do that anymore. What I am going to do is I'm going to focus my marketing on marketing the most profitable products and services. So what starts to happen is, as well as you changing and growing, your business starts to change and grow organically, because you start sussing out things along your journey and you start to realise that, hang on, me doing that is not benefiting me. So I'm going to stop doing that and I'm going to start doing more of this. And a great example of this are the products and services that you start to offer. For example, right now, every Sparky on the planet that I know that's getting into renewable energy is going to make more money fitting solar panels and battery storage and EV chargers than they will do doing rewires or fixing a light switch or putting a first and second fix on Joe Blogg's extension down the road. You will make more money going into renewables. Likewise, plumbing and heating engineers, you will make more money, without a shadow of a doubt, fitting boilers every day at week and fitting heat pumps than you will do fixing stop taps or leaky taps or broken toilets and systems. Now, you will organically pick these types of things up as you grow, and therefore your business starts to move in a different direction to what it did do when you were young and you were naive and you were green and you got no experience as you were on day one. Which means this disconnect between your branding and your logo and your name that you cobbled together on a shoestring budget way back on day one, that branding is now following you around. But as it's following you around, you've changed and morphed and grown. Your business is changing, growing and morphing. But the brand that you set up on day one is still the brand that you're carrying round with you, but everything else is shifting and changing. But your brand isn't. So therefore, there's a disconnect starting to happen in your business based on you and your growth of yourself and your business compared to this cheap brand that you had on day one where you didn't have any experience. Do you see what I'm saying here? So everything's moving, starting to shift and grow. Other than the brand that you set up on day number one. And when I've explained this in a lot more detail for the members that we rebrand, they said to me, Craig, you know what? You've got a point. You know, I first set up my business and I chose this name and it doesn't really mean anything. Doesn't say what it does on the tin. It looks a bit cheap. It looks a bit nasty. You know, I've moved away from that. That's not me anymore. My business is now going in this direction and I've got more of a vision of what I'm doing and where I'm going. I'm like, exactly. This is the point. What we need to do and what you need to consider listening to this episode is, where are you on that journey? Because for me, when we look at rebranding businesses, we'll say to the business owner, right, where do you want to be in 10 years' time? If this business is finished, built, done, dusted, what does that vision look like? Talk to us. Tell us, what products and services are you going to be offering? How are you going to move with the times? How many staff have you got? What types of jobs are you doing? What types of customers are you starting to attract? What's your vision of your business? What's the mission? In other words, how are we going to get there? What's the culture in your business? All this lot we need to know and understand if we want the business to look like where you're going to be and where you're going in 10, 15, 20 years' time. And once we go through this exercise, and that's a challenge in itself for some people, because you said to a business owner, where do you want to be in 10 years' time in them areas I've just mentioned now? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't fucking know? If you don't know, how are you supposed to know that you're on the right track? You could be going 100 mile an hour in that direction when in actual fact you should have been going in that one. If you haven't got the vision of the business, how can the team that you are employing, whether the subbies or employed members of staff, how can they get you to a place that you don't even know what it looks like? Never mind your team. Come on. Surely as a business owner, you must have absolute crystal clear clarity of where your business is going. And then what we do is we say, right, if that's the future vision of the business, what we're going to do is we are going to make you and your business look like that vision of where you're heading in 10 years' time today. We're going to make you look like the future, but we're going to brand you up and get your new business name and your logo and your fonts and your colours and everything is going to look like where you're heading, right? So we can grow into the brand, not grow out of the brand, which is what most businesses have done. They've outgrown the brand, but the brand is still hovering around them. And they're marketing an old, cheap brand where what we're saying is, hang on a minute, let's get that vision and clarity, whatever that looks like. Let's create the name, the brand, the symbols, the fonts, the colours. Let's do that now, knowing that that's the direction you're going in. Then what we do is we grow into the brand, and therefore the brand never outgrows us. But for most, and I mean this, for most business owners, particularly them that have been trading for probably 2 years or more, I'm guessing you've already outgrown your brand. But nobody explained all this to you, did they, on day one when you first set up your business? Which is why I'm saying, for you guys that maybe are fairly new to business and you're just starting out, flipping heck, this is like gold dust for you guys, because you don't have to make the same mistakes as I've made and probably hundreds of thousands of other people. But for you who have been established for a number of years, I want you to take notice of what I'm saying. Because if you're starting to think, well, actually, you might have got a point here, and you've been established for 4 or 5 years, and you don't change the brand now, where are you going to be in another 4 or 5 years? You're going to be one step closer towards that ultimate goal, but you're still carrying around this old brand with you around. And this is why the likes of, and let me just name drop a few big corporate companies that we'll all know, and I'm only dropping these names in because we'll all know them. That's why McDonald's have rebranded goodness knows how many times. That's why companies such as Apple have had over 10 different styles and brands of the Apple over the years. Because can you imagine Apple? If you look at their original brand way back in late 80s, let's say early 90s, how the hell did we survive actually in business way back then? I mean, I was fortunate enough to live in an era where we didn't have internet, we didn't have mobile phones, right? But think about Apple and how they've grown over years and how they've revolutionized the way telecommunications, right? If they'd have still had that same brand as what they've had on day one, today, how on earth could they sell phones at 1,500 quid? How on earth could they sell iPads at 1,500 quid? How on earth could they sell laptops and desktops at 5 to 10 grand with an old brand that looks like they were on day dot, right? Before this digital age came in, they couldn't do it. But what do? They move with the times, they move with the vision, and they tweak and they change the brand as they go along. My question to you is, what have you done? Have you rebranded? Have you sat and thought, do you know what? This is time for a refresh. We've come that far. The old brand's got us to where we are today. But if we continue trading and we continue growing as business at this rate, is that brand going to be right for us? And the answer in 9 times out of 10 questions is no, it's not. So we've got to really seriously think about how important this branding is and the name and getting it right moving forward. So here are the 5 biggest mistakes that you could make when you're coming up with your name or your brand or your logo or your symbol, anything to do with your brand. These are the top 5 mistakes that we're rebranding one business every single week, right? So we see it day in, day out, week in, week out. Mistake number 1, right, is you are not choosing a memorable name. You've got to choose a name in your business that is memorable, that people are going to remember. It's at the back of their mind. They think of it instantly and it lodges and sticks in people's minds, right? So when I say this, right, don't beat me up and don't pick on me for saying it. I'm just saying it how it is and I'm just being honest, right? If you've got your initials in your business name, CWJ, BR this, JLF, Treble H Plasterers, whatever. If you've got initials in your name or you've used your personal name in your business name, how the hell is your initials or your personal name, how is that going to wow your customers? How is that going to emotionally connect with your target market? It's not. You've put your initials in your name, or you've put your own name, or even your kids, you've abbreviated your kids' names down, or you've used some kind of initials or name that means something to you. But this business is not about you, is it? You run the business, it's your business, but you're not trying to appeal to your target market as you. You're not trying to sell to yourself, are you? No, you're not. What we've got to do is we've got to create a memorable name that wows and excites your target market and attracts them to you. So if you're called JBL Plumbers or FJ Joinery or CW Painting and Decorators, I mean, come on. How does that wow people? What has your initials and your name got to do with emotionally connecting with your customers? It's got absolutely nothing to do with it. All it's got to do with is ego. Let's face it, it's ego. Or if it's not ego, it's, I couldn't think of a name when I first set up my business. So I took the easy option and I just put my initials or my name in it. It's like, what? This is a business that's got to attract your target market in the highest concentration. And this business is going to pay you a financial reward. And that financial reward is going to determine the lifestyle of you and your family moving forward. So what is JW Woodworking or CS Electrical or Craig Wilkinson Joiner and Builder got anything to do remotely with attracting and emotionally connecting with your target market? It's not. Now, listen, I know that your business is your baby, right? And I know that you are very protective of your baby and you don't want anybody calling your baby names or picking on your baby. So usually when I say things like this, I've had different mixed reactions from people. I've had people who have used the names go, do you know what, Craig, you've got a point. But then I've also seen people sort of like red mists dropped as though I'm personally attacking them. And I'm not personally attacking you. What I'm saying is they're not memorable. So if you've got your initials in your business, initials and name in your business, and you think right now I'm personally attacking you, then you've emotionally connected yourself and your name to your business. You can't do that. It makes you look small. It makes you look a one-person band. When you've got your name or your initials or your kids' initials, I mean, for all them people that have got your kids' initials, what has your kids' initials got to do with your target market? Absolutely nothing. You're not appealing to them. You see what I'm saying? And having your name in your business is going to restrict you from growth. Because people will expect Craig Wilkinson to answer the phone. People would expect Craig Wilkinson to go and do the survey. People would expect Craig Wilkinson then to do the price. People would expect Craig Wilkinson to be on the job. But at that time, I got 4 or 5 jobs running, but they all wanted me. Why? Because my name was in the freaking business. So it hampers your growth. Do you get what I'm saying? So mistake number 1 is initials and putting your personal ego into a business name that nobody remembers and it means nothing to your target market. Mistake number 2, it looks cheap. It looks DIY. It looks unprofessional. It looks like you've done it yourself on canva.com, or you've got somebody off Fiverr.com and you've paid them 30 quid to come up with a logo, or peopleperhour.com and you've given them 50 quid and they're at the other end of the world and they've never met you and they've not even asked you the right questions, right? Or even worse nowadays, there's these dodgy AI tools that are out there, isn't there? Where, give it a prompt and it'll come up with a name and a brand and a logo for you. And I've seen it where people have used a prompt in ChatGPT or an equivalent, and then they've come up with this brand and they've got, oh, that looks smart. That looks better than what I've got now. I'm going with that. It's like, what? How can you afford to do your brand, the thing that the first impressions count? It's the brand, it's the first thing, the logo is the first thing that people see, that first impression. If you're going to do it on cheap, DIY, doing it yourself when you're not an expert in branding and marketing, and you're doing it on Canva or Fiverr or some dodgy AI tool, that is going to spell disaster for you. Because as your business starts to grow, you've got that old brand following you around. Mistake number 3. These brands do not show your professionalism and how trustworthy you and your business are. You see, I'm guessing you want to come across as being professional and trustworthy and reliable and honest. And therefore, your brand has got to say that. It's got to say it in the name. It's got to say it with the symbol and the logo and the fonts and the colours and everything else that you're using to build that professionalism and trust up. But sadly, when people use clip art word fonts or cartoon characters or whatever in the business name or the business logo, it's like, what the hell? How unprofessional and untrustworthy does that look when you've got a cartoon caricature of yourself, or you've got a cartoon hammer or a cartoon saw in your logo and your brand? It just looks unprofessional. I mean, how are you supposed to attract high-end customers and clients that are prepared to pay more for a good quality service when your brand that you're putting out there for the world to see looks unprofessional and it doesn't look trustworthy? Mistake number 4. It doesn't build authority and credibility over your competitors. In other words, it just looks the same bog standard, boring initials, name, whatever you've come up with as every other person in your trade. I mean, come on, how many flipping plumbers have got a flame in their logo? Please don't tell me if you're a plumbing and heating engineer, you've got a flame in your logo. I mean, how many fucking plumbers have flames in the logo? What makes you different and stand out when everybody's using an orange or red or yellow or blue flame as a plumbing and heating engineer on your logo? How does that build authority and make you stand out over your competitors? Why is it every roofer or every other builder seems to have a house? Or if you're a roofer, you'll have a roof with a chimney on or a triangle. Why does everybody do that? How are you standing out from your competitors and being different for all the right reasons when your branding doesn't look any different to Joe Blogg's round corner and 1,000 other tradesmen that they've already seen or on social media or landed on their websites? What's memorable? What's going to wow people? What's going to make them stand out? Mistake number 5. It doesn't turn customers on with the first impression. If anything, they're looking at it and they're going, it's no different to anyone else. It looks a bit cheap. It looks a bit tacky. Therefore, I'm not bothered. Listen, you could be the best tradesperson on the planet, but if somebody else that's not as good as you has got a better professional brand and better marketing, then the likelihood is, even though they don't offer a service as good as you and they're not as professional as you, if their brand says it is to their target market, they are going to win more business than you, hands down, even though you're better than them. Wow your customers. First impressions have to count when it comes to logos. And sadly, when we look at the vast majority of brands within the building industry, most of them fall into one of those 5, if not all of them 5, mistakes that people have made. We cannot scale a business with an unprofessional, not trustworthy DIY brand that's using initials that aren't memorable, that mean nothing to the target market, that don't emotionally connect with them, right? We've got it wrong. So in the next chapter, I'm going to be sharing with you how we're going to fix this by implementing our 10-step strategy on how to come up with the perfect business name and get the right brand that's going to see you through for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So if you sat there thinking, do you know what, he might have got a point, I never really looked at it in this way before, Maybe it's something that I need to consider, whether it's now or in future. I'm only planting seeds with you so you don't make the same mistakes as what many other people have made, right? But when people do come to us and say, Craig, I hear what you're saying. We're 100% in that place that you've just shared. How do I change it? Where do we start when it comes to rebranding? What do we need to do? How can we avoid making all these mistakes? So what we do is we share some training with them. And in that training, there's a 10-point checklist, 10 steps that me and my team go through when we're rebranding businesses just like yours, right? So I'm going to go through each one of these 10 steps and then I'm going to give you a bit more context around each one. What I want you to do is I want you to make some notes around what I'm saying and write these 10 things down, because you could then go away and do all this and come up with your own strap lines and logos and symbols and fonts and everything and get it right. I'm not saying you've got to use us. I'm saying this is what we go through and it works. So write this down. Step number 1 is we do competitor analysis. Write down competitor analysis. And what I mean by this is we'll go and look at all the competitors in and around said companies who's come to us who want to rebrand. We'll go and look at their competitors locally. Then what we'll go and do is we'll go and look at them nationally, right? And what we're looking for is what is working and what they got going well and what's right. And then what we're also doing is looking for what's wrong, what's not working, where have they messed up, what is letting this brand or this company name down, right? And then what we'll do is we'll do a competitor analysis on everything, so we then know what we're up against. And we know then that if that's our competition and that's what most of them are doing right and wrong, we then got a benchmark to say, right, this is the strategy that we need to pull together to absolutely freaking dominate. And I know a lot of people said to me, Craig, you always use this word dominate. I've seen you speaking on stages and you use this word dominate. It's a bit strong in it. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I don't know about you, but I'm not in business to play second best. I'm not in business to cross that finishing line 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Listen, I'm in this to win. I'm a winner. I'm not happy coming second. I'm not happy that my branding's not the best. I'm not happy that my systems and my funnels and my automations and my websites and my landing pages and my videos and everything else and this podcast, I'm not happy if other people are in front of me. Because if other people are in front of me, I'm playing catch up. I'm not winning the race. So yeah, of course I want to dominate. And that's what I teach my inner circle members. Let's dominate. By doing that competitor analysis, we've got a starting point and then we can look at it and go, look, this is where everybody else is at. So this is what we need to do to absolutely dominate and wipe the floor and take the market share in your location, town or city. So number 1, you've got to do some research, competitor analysis. Number 2 is then, who is your target market? So step number 2 is target market. Because not everybody is your target market. You need to work out who your target market actually is and how can we attract them in the highest concentration to our business through the logo, the brand, the name and everything that we're going to create. Because target markets work like this. Too many people complain and moan that they just attract time wasters and tire kickers. People who want things done aren't cheap and they want it done yesterday. And you'll go and spend hours of your time looking at a job, coming back, pricing it, sending price off, and then you get ghosted. Why do you get ghosted? Because they were time wasters and they were tire kickers and you should have never have invested that time in the first place. But what's attracted them time wasters and the people who haven't got the money or haven't got the right budget to afford you is your freaking brand. You've attracted these people to you based on the content that you're putting out there. And the content you're putting out there is propped up by this possibly cheap brand. So if you're at the cheaper end of the market, then you've got to have a cheap brand. But I'm guessing for most people listening to this, you're not at the bottom end of the market. You're in the middle to high end. So if that's the case, your brand that's going to attract your target market has got to be middle to high end. And if we have a high-end brand that spells quality, that says, just by looking at it, these are going to be a bit more expensive than everybody else, straight away you're going to get rid of all them time wasters. Only ideally leaving you with the people that are prepared to pay a bit more for quality. So you can't have a cheap brand and try and attract high-end clients because there's a disconnect between the brand and your target market. So if you've got why has Poundland got a cheap looking brand with cheap fonts and cheap colours? Because what are they trying to attract? The cheap end of the market. But if you're selling high-end stuff, kitchens that are 50 grand, boilers that start from 3 grand, extensions that start from £200,000. If you're at that high-end market, you've got to have a high-end brand. You've got to have a Rolex, Rolls-Royce brand to attract them people to you. But how you work out what that brand is by first of all understanding who is your target market and then where can we find them in the highest concentration. Step number 3 is a standout, memorable name. Now, I think you've already guessed that I'm not a big lover of putting personal names into business names. Now, you might say, well, hang on a minute, Craig, there's loads of big, well-known, established names. John Lewis, for one. Michael Kors, for another, right? People can have their name in their business and still be successful. I get that, but it all comes down to the niche that you're in. So, of course, designers of top quality clothing can have their name in it because that's part of that industry. People like John Lewis, as another example, can have their name in it because it's retail. And retail, people a lot of the times buy based on the name. But for a trades and construction business owner, you, in my opinion, do not want to have your initials, as we've already established, in your name in your business because it means nothing to your target market. How are you supposed to attract that high-end market when you're Craig Wilkinson, joiner and builder? Makes you look like a one-man band straight away. Do you get what I'm saying? So you need a stand-out name that's going to be memorable, that's going to wow your future target market into using you. So stay away from names, stay away from initials if you're a trades or construction business owner, and think of a name that's going to wow people, that tells people what it does on the tin. I mean, come on, look at my business, Trades Freedom Club. I've not called it Craig Wilkinson Marketing or Craig Wilkinson Coaching, have I? I've called it Trades Freedom Club. Why? Well, trades, I'm calling out my target market straight away. Freedom is the long-term vision to achieve time and financial freedom. And what is Trades Freedom Club? Well, we're an organisation, we're a community, we're a group, we're a club for people to join and get involved with. Step number 4. What I want you to then do to come up with the perfect business name that many people struggle with, this is what we do, right? We will write down 50 to 100 words that are synonymous, if you like, with your trade, your industry, or your profession. So we'll write down all the words that we could use in a business name. But we don't just write 10 or 20 down, because that'll be the exact same 10 or 20 that every other mofo's already come up with and already got. What we do is we push yourself and challenge yourself to come up with 50 to 100 words for that particular customer or client. Because it's when you get to word 40 and 50 and 60 do we start to pull words out that are slightly different to everybody else's. So what we ask you to do is write down 50 to 100 words and then start looking at the words that are a little bit different that nobody else has come up with, and that'll help you come up with the business name. Step number 5. We call it mix and match, which means once you've written down your 50 to 100 words, what we then do is we'll pull one word off this list and one word off that and one word off that. And what we do is we start to mix and match all these different words. And the reason why we're doing that is we're trying to come up with a name that sounds right, that looks right, that says what it does on the tin, and what would be appealing and would emotionally connect you to your target market. And for that, we have to mix and match loads of different words. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to mix and match, and you're going to come up with, let's say, a hit list of words or names that you feel as though you can use. Step number 6 is what we call the power of 3, 2, 1. And what we mean by this is we always start with, can we come up with a name that's got 3 words in it? Because the power of 3 when it comes to marketing is incredibly powerful. Whether that's, in this case, you're coming up with a business name with 3 words in, or whether you are marketing your services on your website. You'll see on all our websites, we always have 3 rows of 3 when we're designing websites, because it's the power of 3. So we'll promote your 3 most profitable products and services on your homepage. And then if there's more to promote, we'll do 3 rows of 3 columns, right? The power of 3. So we start to come up with 3 words from that mix and match that pulls 3 words together that would be an ideal business name. Now, if you look at what I've just said, Trades Freedom Club, it's the power of 3. It rolls off the tongue. And when you use the power of 3 in names, it does roll off the tongue. Then we say, well, hang on a minute, we might not be able to come up with a name with the power of 3. So let's then go with the power of 2. So in other words, we'll look at coming up with a business name that's got 2 words in it. So we've just rebranded Andrew Little to Shield Build. He's a building contractor that's going into property development and fire doors for commercial properties. So we've rebranded him and we've come up with the power of 2, Shield Build. Still rolls off the tongue. But what was Andrew's name before we came up with this? Let me tell you, it were ASL Construction. And when you look at Andrew's logo, and he said it himself in a video testimonial he's recently done for us, he's got a triangle, he's got a roof, he's got a chimney, and even worse, the triangle roof and chimney that's part of his logo is red, which spells danger in this particular case, right? So the branding was all wrong. Now he's Shield Build, and we've branded him up to attract his target market in the highest concentration to his business by using the power of 2. Then we've got the power of 1, which is, can we use one single word that says what it does on the tin? A little bit more tricky, particularly for trades and construction businesses, but we have done it before. But we start with the power of 3, then the power of 2, then the power of 1. We never usually get to the power of 1 because we've always got one with 3 or 2 in, but the option is there. Step number 7 is a strap line. Creating a strap line that sits just underneath your brand and your logo that becomes synonymous with your brand. Now, if you're going for the power of 2 or the power of 3, sorry, I beg your pardon, power of 2 or the power of 1, when it comes to choosing your business name, I would 100% have a strapline that sits against that business name, because to try and get what the business does on the tin into 2 words or 1 word is difficult. So point 7, step 7 is, what strapline could you come up with that sits at the side of or underneath your logo, where people see the business name but then read the strapline and fully understand from the strapline exactly what it does on the tin. Straplines are incredibly important and powerful when it comes to your brand. Now, if you follow that strategy, at this point now, you should have the perfect business name and or a strapline that sits with it. But even when we come up with a perfect business name, we've not finished, because we've got to do a few checks. So step number 8 is, we would then check at Companies House to make sure that there is not already a business registered at Companies House with the same name. Because you can't have a limited company and then set up another limited company, let's say, using the same business name. So what we then do is we go to Companies House, and more than often than not, we'll do a search and damn, there's already a business called that name, so we can't use it. So then we're back to looking at mixing and matching those 50 to 100 words to come up with another power of 3 as an example. But you've got to check at Companies House to make sure there's not already a limited company set up with that name. Now, if you're a sole trader, it's not as complex as that. Because what you would do is you would contact HMRC and tell them that you've got a new trading name. However, my rule of thumb is always check Companies House, even if you're not a limited company and you're just a sole trader coming up with a new trading name. Because as your business starts to grow, I would strongly encourage that you go limited anyway. So what you don't want to do is come up with a business name as a sole trader, knowing that you're going to be growing and going limited at some point, but then you can't go limited with that company name because there's a limited company already established with it. So my rule of thumb is this: whether you're a limited company or you are a sole trader, always check with Companies House, and if there's already a business with the same name, stay away from it. Or otherwise you're going to end up with legal complications, and you don't want that. And for those of you that are limited, you don't have to set up another business with this new business name. You don't have to go and set up another limited company. You just go on Companies House, and on their website, there's a change of limited company name. You fill in the online form, send in some ID, and you can change your existing limited company name at Companies House to your new one. You don't have to set up a new limited company. So we've now got a name that's not registered at Companies House, but the checks don't stop there, because what we've then got to do, step number 9, is we've got to check that we've got the domain name available for the websites and the email addresses, because we don't want to be nobody. If you're listening to this and you're still using gmail.com as your email, or AOL or Yahoo or whatever, please, come on. When we talk about your brand, your email address says a lot about your business. If I get an email from Joe Blogs at google.com, it's like it's a one-man band. It's a one-man band. So you got to remember that we've got to check to make sure that the domain name is available for the website and the email address. How we do this is we use GoDaddy, godaddy.com. If you go to godaddy.com, you can, just like going to Google, there's a search bar. You type in the name that you've come up with, and you're hoping that that name is not taken, and you can get the .co.uk or .com perhaps, as the domain name. Now, if the name's already taken, you've got to come up with a slightly different variation of that domain name to make sure that you've got the right domain name with your business name in it. What you don't want to do is have your business name and then have a completely random domain name or email address that's got absolutely nothing to do with your business. That's all the rage at the minute. They call them vanity domains. You don't want a vanity domain, right? What I mean by a vanity domain is, let's say that tradesfreedomclub.com had gone, I could have something like world's best tradescoach.com, but still be trying to palm that off onto Trades Freedom Club. So the business is called Trades Freedom Club, but the vanity domain will be the world's number one tradescoach.com. It's no good. You need to get the name of your business in the domain name, and you need to check that at Companies House. One last tip. If let's say the .co.uk, which is the most popular one for the UK, and maybe you're not in the UK listening to this, you might be somewhere else, you'll have like your, .com synonymous with America. I think you've got .au for Australia. You want to try and stick to your local country, if that makes sense. You want to stick local. But what I would do, if I were you, is if you can buy .org, .biz, .tv for an extra couple of quid, I'd buy them domains up as well so your competitors can't take the domains that are almost identical as yours. And for the sake of an extra 10 quid, 20 quid a year, you might as well safeguard them extra domains so your competitors can't steal them. Now, at this point, you've checked at Companies House, you've got the domain. You've checked at Companies House, you've got the limited company. You've checked the domain name at GoDaddy, brilliant. At that point, it's like, right, we've found the name. We've got the perfect business name. It appeals to our target market. Nobody else has got it. We've got the power of three. We've got a brilliant strap line. Nobody's got it at Companies House. We've got the domain name. What I would say then is, step number 10 is sit on it. Seriously, sit on it for a week or 2 weeks or however long it takes for you to end up saying, do you know what? That is the perfect name and I'm going for it. Because there's times over years where we've rebranded businesses and we've sent them their branding over and their name and everything. We've finished it. We've done it. And they've said, it's amazing. I'm signing it off. I love it. And then 3 days later, they'll contact us and they've said, do you know what, Craig? I've gone off that name. And they could have chosen the name themselves. It's not just necessarily down to the name we've chosen. They could come to us and say, I've already done these 10 or 9 steps up to now. I want this name. And then they go off it, because they change their mind after a couple of days. So what our advice is, when you come up with a perfect name, don't ask people on social media what they think to it, because you're going to get a mixed bag of reactions. And you're asking uneducated people that haven't been through these 9 steps, and you're asking people that don't even know who you are or what your business does or what your future business vision is. So don't ask people on social media. Sit on it yourself, maybe ask your family, because they know what you do, and maybe ask a couple of your past customers that you're friends with and have got a good relationship. Explain to them that you're on about rebranding because your business is growing and you're going to put a positive spin on that conversation, and then ask them what do they think. But don't put it on social media and sit on it for at least a week. Because the times people will change their mind, sit on it for a week, and as and when the time is right, you will know if that's the right name and the right concept. And when that feeling of, I've done it, I've nailed it, that is absolutely perfect, that is when, and only when, we will go away and then start to come up with the logo, the fonts, the colours, the symbols, the layout, and the concept of the actual design itself. Are you with me? You've got to sit on it at step 10 for a minimum of 1 week. So there you go. That's our 10-step strategy that's took us years to come up with that. I'm giving it you for free. And the reason why I'm doing this, and the reason why I do all these podcast episodes and I give all this knowledge away, is part of our mission and our values, in the fact that we want to help as many trades and construction business owners as we can achieve time and financial freedom. You will not find another podcast like this where coaches, gurus, mentors, whatever you want to call people, come on and give the amount of knowledge and value I give out on these episodes. You just don't find it because they want to charge you for it. I don't want to charge you for it. I want to give it you all for free and let you go away and do this yourself, the most cost-effective way. And then if you get stuck, or if the budget is right further down the line and you want a hand with this, of course we'll help you. But there's no reason why you can't take these 10 steps if you're thinking, he's got a point on this podcast. Maybe I should think, or at least consider, rebranding, because there is a disconnect happening from my original brand to where I am today. So maybe when I get 5 minutes, I will go through these 10 steps. And if you do, and you find someone to do your brand and they're brilliant, game on, you've done it. You've not made them mistakes that everybody else has. But at the same time, if you feel as though the time is right and you do want some help and support, having gone through these 10 steps yourself, and you can't seem to get it right, then obviously we'd love to work with you. Now, in the comments description of this episode, you'll find a link to a dedicated landing page that we've built that's got all this information on it. And it's even on that landing page got all the before and after logos of many of the trades business owners that we've rebranded. So if you want to go and have a look at the before and after and the transformation, just to give yourself some ideas of what you could do, then feel free to click the link, go and have a look at them. We've got like a scrolling bar where you can grab a logo and scroll it to left and see the before and scroll it to right and see the after. Go and have a look at some of those examples, and that might get your brains, your brain ticking on what you could potentially do. But at the same time, while you're there, check out the section where I'm talking about psychology. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is when we come up with brands and logos and new concepts, not only do we go through these 10 steps, but when we come to actually design the logo and brand itself, we use psychology into the reason why we've come up with this font, why we've come up with this symbol, why we've come up with the colours, why we've come up with that logo, why we've come up with that strapline. And what we use, which is unique to us, is we use psychology. We don't just do these 10 steps and go, oh, what logo would look pretty? What would look nice? What would do this? What would do that? And just randomly pull something pretty together. Everything that we do when it comes to branding and marketing has got psychology and emotion sat behind it. Because branding and marketing is very, very simple. Let me break it down. It's straightforward. You've got to emotionally connect with a random person that might be scrolling on Facebook and stop them in their tracks for them to take notice of you and your business. And how we do that is by emotionally connecting with them using psychology, right? So when we start to bring emotional psychology and emotional intelligence into branding and marketing, it's like puts it all on another level. It's like putting it all on steroids. And that's what we do. So when you go to the landing page, as well as checking out the before and after examples, have a look at the examples we've given you where we talk about psychology and show you how and why we come up with the different brands that we've come up with. And then finally, at the bottom of the page, you can listen to testimonials of different trades, business owners that have gone through this experience with us and hear from them themselves on the benefits of rebranding. And finally, if you are serious about rebranding, having listened to this episode, checked out the landing page, and gone through these 10 steps yourself, because you could do this yourself. If you've gone through that and you still feel as though you need help and support and you're serious about rebranding within the next 3 months, the same link in the description and the show notes to that landing page, you can get to book a call with us. It's just a 15-minute strategy call where we're going to look at your existing brand, find out off you what your future vision of your business is, and then we're going to look to see if there's a disconnect. And if there is a disconnect in your brand, we'll share that with you and explain where the disconnect is and what you need to do to sort it out. But at the same time, if we look at it and we think, actually, you've absolutely nailed this, there's no changes, you don't need to do anything, you've cracked it already, we'll be honest and we'll say, you've cracked it, you don't need us. Just stick with the brand you've got because it's going to work. So you can book that call with us if you're serious about rebranding and considering us on working with you to go through these 10 steps and then come up with your new business name, your new business brand, your logos, your symbols, your colours, and your brand guidelines document. Click the link in the description and go and check that page out. Now, I'd be interested on getting your feedback from this episode and what you think to your brand having gone through this episode. So if you're a Growth Club member, jump into our Growth Club, put a post in there saying that you've listened to episode number 66 and Craig, this is my takeaway from it and this is what I'm now going to do to improve my brand. Come and tell us inside our Growth Club. Likewise, if you're not a Growth Club member and you're in our free Trades Freedom Club Facebook group and community, which you can get access to absolutely free by clicking on the link in the description, come into our Facebook group and tell us the same. I've listened to episode 66. I've learned this. I'm going to go away and I'm going to do this. Because if we can help you create that perfect brand to attract more profitable customers and clients, then long term, you're going to end up making more profit. And remember, when you're prepared to do things that other people aren't prepared to do, then you'll get a different result. So I'll catch up with you on next week's episode and I'll meet you at the top. Thank you.